The story is told of a little boy who found the large family Bible. As he was paging through, something fell out from between the pages. It was a leaf from a tree that had been pressed between the pages of this Bible for generations. The little boy picked up the leaf and cried out, "Mommy, look what I found!" "What is it?" asked the mother. With utter conviction, the boy said, It's Adam's suit." That boy had faith. It was quite a fundamentalist faith, but it was a sort of faith. This Sunday has traditionally been known as Doubting Thomas Sunday. But I think Thomas gets a bad rap. We always think of him as an unbeliever. But Thomas had a very strong faith. He was no more an unbeliever than the other apostles. Thomas was not present when Jesus came into that room that first time. The others were able to see him, but Thomas was not. So he said, "I will not believe until I can touch his wounds." Then Jesus did come back, just for Thomas, so that he could touch the wounds. Thomas was blessed with the gift of doubt. That is a wonderful gift because our doubts, our questioning, are the sign of a lively faith, which causes us not to lock ourselves in behind closed doors, but to have the courage to go out. Don't think those other apostles didn't need to see to believe. From the moment of Easter morning, no one believed until they actually saw. The women going to the tomb didn't believe until they saw the angel telling them what was going on. Peter and the others didn't believe the women and had to run over to the tomb to see for themselves. The 10 apostles gathered together in the room didn't believe until Jesus came and they saw him. Seeing for them was believing. The faith of Thomas was very much alive. Not content with hearing reports from others, he craved a personal experience of God. He needed to touch those wounds and so find God for himself. Jesus says to him and to all of us, "Blessed are you who have not seen but have believed." Thomas saw. The other apostles saw. We have not seen. We are not from that generation. Blessed are we who believe anyway. We all seek that same personal experience of God that Thomas did. None of us is content with just accepting what has been handed down to us. We want something more. We want to touch God with our own lives. One time I was working together with a rabbi in doing the funeral of the mother of a rather famous celebrity who had just recently rediscovered her Jewish roots and had become very religious. At the funeral, I said to the lady, "I really hope that your newly discovered Jewish faith has brought you some comfort during these difficult times." She looked at me and said, "No, it has not. I need a burning bush." So I turned to the rabbi and said, "Well, Zev, I have the matches. You get the sticks." We need that burning bush experience, a personal experience of God in our life. We are all Thomas, the doubting Thomas. It is good to doubt, to question, because that means our faith is alive. If we stop questioning, if we stop doubting, our faith will never deepen, never grow, and we will never discover the richness waiting for us in our encounters with God. Doubting Thomas is you and I. Doubt is not a curse. Doubt is a blessing. The opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is fear. The other apostles were huddled in fear behind locked doors. afraid to allow anyone in and afraid to venture out. The faith of Thomas was stronger. It gave him the courage to move beyond those locked doors and go somewhere. And when the others had a different experience from his and believed something he could not, he still remained a part of that group. The others did not kick him out of the College of Apostles because he didn't believe all the same things they did. His experience had been different. It is good to doubt. One of the biggest doubters of the world is our church, and it's good so. When reports of visions and other extraordinary things arise, it is the church who greets these reports with a healthy dose of skepticism and says, "No, we have to wait and see." The church even used to have the famous institution of the devil's advocate, who had the official role of casting doubt on claims to sainthood. To be able to question without fear of our whole faith crumbling means that we have a very strong faith. It is a weak faith indeed that causes believers to close in on themselves and lock the doors. That is not faith. That is fear. Because of Thomas's great faith, because of his questioning, he alone was granted the privilege of touching God. The others were able to see truth. Thomas alone was able to touch it. All because his faith was so alive that it had room for questioning, for probing further, for doubting. In fact, Thomas was the first to proclaim Jesus as God. When he saw Jesus standing there, he said for the first time in history, "My Lord and my God." Others had called him Lord before, others Messiah, and still others had called him Son of God. But no one had ever called Jesus God. It was Thomas's questioning faith which led him to this new truth, led him to a conviction far beyond that of the other apostles. Doubting Thomas was believing Thomas. Because his faith was so alive, he could question and doubt without fear of his faith coming crashing down. Because his faith was so alive, he sought to touch the wounds of God and could recognize God in those wounds. Because his faith was so alive, he did not cower behind closed doors, but ventured to go beyond. Because his faith was so much alive, he alone was granted the privilege of touching God and knowing that it was God that he touched. Doubting Thomas, believing Thomas, grant us your lively faith. Grant us your lively doubts, that we too may know that we are touching God.